Hey guys, it's Caleb with White Metal Games here. I just wanted to give you guys a quick studio update. It is Monday, the 14th of January. So if you missed our other Happy New Year's update, we've been working on a bunch of terrain here in the studio, and some of that is mostly coming to a head, mostly being concluded. We've also started working on a few painting projects, a few conversion projects. We wanted to walk you through everything we've been working on, so why don't we just dive right into it. So the last time you saw us, we were working on some terrain. It was kind of in the middle of stuff. The terrain has moved on to painting. It's all the assembly is done at this point for most of this stuff. I'm not going to dwell too long on it because a lot of this stuff is black and it's hard to make out much detail. But if you go back to our last video, you'll notice that we had some pieces of Tarrasque terrain, is what we were calling it. And this is bits of a model that we had previously worked on and that we have since mounted to some MDF bases and put on some stucco. And we've primed up black, and that's going to be painted here very shortly. So by the time it's done, it'll look like the ruins of a great cyclopean, statue of some older, fallen draconian god or something like that, some sort of giant Tarrasque or Tarrasque, depending on how you pronounce it. Here are some of these Corinthian-style columns. As you may or may not remember, these are actually water noodles that have been mounted vertically to a slat of MDF. We've also used this stucco to sort of simulate sand. It's a little difficult to see here because it is, as I said, black. You can see these small pots on there as well. It's very, very difficult to see that. Here's a better look at what the completed ones actually look like. So these actually have mostly been finished. They need a little touch-up. But as you can see, these have been painted a couple different shades of white and gray to sort of give them that nice, worn-out desert look. And then they also have this, this sand flocking on the base material. Here's the stucco that's been put on the side to make it look like it's been cracked a little bit. I think that actually works pretty well. A couple little touch-ups, but those are pretty much done. So by the time those are done as a set, it'll be 3 large pieces of area terrain, great for fantasy battles, and could also work for 40K too. Looking back on that project, I think I wish I had thrown a few more base decorations on there, some skulls or something. But for the smaller sets, it's very much a living progress kind of thing. One of the lakes did not work out so great, so what I decided to do was just glue a couple trees to the base, and I'm going to finish those out here shortly. We're going to put some more snow flock to cover that up. Unfortunately, learning how to flock snow is difficult, and it took me a few tries to start to sort of get a feel for it. I'm still kind of feeling it out, but rather than waste all the flock we had put down, I just figured we'll throw on a couple of these trees. These trees we got from a Christmas diorama, or a Christmas Walmart Christmas sort of store. And although they're cheap pine trees, we got these for like $1 a piece. By the time we flock them up, throw some snow paste on them and some flock, it'll look like a winter Christmas scene, and that'll actually work great for a little piece of area terrain. Here's some more of these ruins that we've worked on before. These are actually just made out of really basic computer store box inserts for TVs or printers, that sort of thing. We mount those to card base and then stucco those up, paint them black, and then we're going to give them a couple coats of gray primer to sort of prime them up. And I think that'll work out real well. We've done these before. They've been a popular way to sort of do cheap, poor man's, easily made, ready-made terrain. These are the ogre huts that I had shown previously. They are now in the beginning stages of painting. As you can see up here, the fur has been matted with PVA glue and sort of smudged down onto the roof. We have painted it black and primed it and started to apply some terracotta paint to the base to sort of give it a nice earthy tone. So here you can see where we've filled in the gaps on the sandbagging material to make it look like stone keystones. So I think that worked out pretty well, actually. The house is a little big for fantasy stuff, so it works really well for 54mm figures. It would also work well for what I'm using in this case, which I'm calling ogre huts. So you have to think of them as kind of for a bigger scale of miniature. Here is a scratch-built biovore we just churned out. We've got a 40K league coming up in town, and the league is a small league. So because of that, it gives you a chance to try out some more interesting things. In this particular league, it's a scout league, so your armies are very small, very point limited, and nothing over certain numbers of wounds, armor, and vulnerable saves, that sort of thing. No special name characters. So because of that, I decided to rock a Biovore, which I never do, but I actually had sold all my Biovores. So I needed something in a hurry, so I sort of pilfered my Bix box until I could find enough stuff to churn this guy out. He's a lot bigger than a traditional Biovore, but I kind of like him. I think he's more in scale with a Pyrovore, and he'll be mounted to a 60mm base, and he's got some gray stuff work, of course, to be done, but everything, all things in good time. Everything's coming along there. Here is the lake that did work out. As you can see, there's much more exposed area here. This has been coated with what they call flex paste, which is basically a very, very thick PVA glue, which dries over several days. I certainly recommend it for this sort of stuff because it's great for coverage. It dries nice and smooth, and it's rubbery, so that unlike stucco basic material, which I use for a lot of my projects, it won't crack or flake. It is expensive. It's not cheap. It's about $1 an ounce. So a 16-ounce can will cost you about $15-16. So it's not for everything, but it's certainly for some things. Here is the Desert Tyranid army we were telling you about. That is mostly done. We got a few pieces coming in tomorrow, and once those arrive, we'll be able to finish this army out. Here's a couple of the additional pieces that came in. Here's a Carnifex that came in. Now, for those who have watched some of our videos, the Desert Tyranids was sort of a natural earth color-themed Tyranid army, which I enjoy the color scheme quite a bit. These guys were designed by Will Shuck, the color scheme-wise. They came out pretty well. We got a few other pieces coming in. So they all have sort of a brown, earthy, sort of Terran look to them. Some of them have jackal patterns and leopard patterns and patterns that you would see on natural desert creatures. For the spore parts, we went with sort of a cactusy kind of green to sort of tie the army in together. And that army is actually spoken for at the moment, but if the client decides to, for whatever reason, move on to another project, that'll be up on the block. Here's some different stuff that we have recently just finished, and I kind of just shoved it all up here. So I could give you guys a quick showdown. The Dreadnoughts, I have a friend who's a big fan of Star Wars, and his birthday's coming up, and I wanted to do something kind of fun for him. So I put these together a while ago. They only recently got painted up because I've been really busy with stuff. I didn't, because they're just going to be a display item on his shelf, and he's not going to use them in game. I didn't put a great deal of time into painting these. I just went with very basic techniques, a few dry brushes, the red there you can see is from a airbrush. I did that to sort of give an OSL effect, and then just went over with a metallic, splashed a little color in there on the gray and the red, and so there's Vader. Worked out well. Now I know what you're thinking. I probably could have put his head down into the cavity where it normally is, but actually buying those little miniatures for Vader and the Royal Guard and stuff are actually kind of pricey, so it was actually cheaper to buy the figures in this case and mount the real heads, and I kind of like the blocky look to them. So those guys worked out pretty well. Here's a Royal Guard and a Stormtrooper. These guys were fun just to build, just as a giggle. As I said, they're nothing crazy fancy, but they kind of make me laugh, and I think they'll make him laugh too. And they're a gift, so he'll enjoy them. Working our way back through the pile. Let's see what we got. This spiky barrier is something I had seen in a Cities of Death book years ago, and I wanted to emulate it a little bit. So I decided to design a couple of these different barriers when I was doing stuff. The first one is basically just a small spiked barrier made out of spare Chaos sprue bits, and just painted up to a very basic tabletop standard. Nothing fancy there. That is for sale in the eBay store or ones like it. The fence material is kind of the same basic idea. It's mounted to a thin wooden base. A few details thrown in here. There's a las rifle, a barrel, and a helmet with a fence background. The fences are great because I think they're difficult terrain to move through, but you can still see them. They don't deny shooting. So it's kind of a fun terrain option, for stuff that you want when you want to have that sort of extra option in there for blocking movement but not line of sight. I certainly think it adds something unique to the game. This is, as you might expect from a Terminator bobblehead. And I had originally bought it for thinking that I would turn it into a Necron piece, and it just didn't really work out size-wise. I wasn't crazy about it, but I decided not to waste it. So what I did was I mounted it to a piece of MDF, and I wanted to test out this black lava material, which I got as a textured lava rock. And it's not bad, but it dries really dark. I wasn't crazy about how dark it dried. I was hoping for a little more different texture, but I think what it's designed to do is dry to look like asphalt, like black asphalt, or black when lava cools, the sort of black residue that's left behind. So it's certainly not bad, but it's fairly expensive, and I was hoping for certainly a more dynamic look. But still, for what it is, this creates a great Necron objective for games of Apocalypse or that sort of thing. These planetoids, which are what's left up here, all were designed for games like Battlefleet Gothic, Star Wars, the miniatures game, and that sort of thing. They are foam, high density foam, polystyrene, mounted MDF basing, and then it's a little tough to see, but if you look closely, you can see different colors have been swirled in there with the air gun. It's pretty easy to see on this yellow one because the yellow pops so much, and then colors have been swirled into the planets, of course, with the air gun as well. And then the stars have been painted in there with the tip of a pen, and there's different colors on there. So I think it achieves this sort of cosmic dusty look, which I was going for. Here's a blue one. It came out pretty well. And as you can see, most of these have these half rings on them. So what it looks like, the idea is that you're coming around the side of the planet. So that way it sets flat on the table. And in addition to that, it's also a playable piece. You can use this for games like Star Wars X-Wings Miniatures, Star Wars Miniatures games, Star Wars role-playing games, Battlefleet Gothic. You could probably even use them for space battles in games like Dark Heresy, Inquisitor, and that sort of stuff. So a lot of fun there. I don't know if it'd work with Drop Zone Commander, because I don't know if Drop Zone Commander, being that I haven't played it yet, I don't know if it's ever outside of a typical world, or with buildings and skyscrapers and landscapes. And I don't know if they ever take those battles to space. If they do, though, this would definitely work with that. All you need is a big black sheet, and that's about it. And then throw a couple of these on there. If these prove at all popular, we'll do some different stuff. We'll do some shooting stars. We'll do some asteroid fields, that sort of thing. So we're just trying to feel the market out and see if these are liked at all. And the only other thing I'll show you is I've got something in the other room, which I'll show you real quick. We recently had a client contact us about some Chaos Spawn. They liked our spawn that we'd used for using Cryptor kits, sort of a poor man's spawn. So he contacted us and wanted us to do something like that. So this is what we came up with. He wanted a naturalistic look for his spawn. He wanted them to sort of have this reddish, whitish look. And he sent us another picture somewhere. Oh, here it is. So here's another one. Again, it's got this reddish, whitish look to it. A little green sort of worked in there, which I don't love, but I love the red and the whites and the pinks worked in together. So that was his concept art for us, and he just let us kind of have our fun with it. So this is what we came up with. We came up with 6 different ones. They're still being worked on, so these are not finished products. Ironically, they're all sort of facing away. Let me see if I can't get one who's facing us. Let me just hold one up, I guess. All right, so here we go. So as you can see here, it's several tones of white and reds. So what happened is we started off with sort of a black base coat and went over that with sort of a bone whitish color. Applied several layers of wash and red inks to it. Hit it with the not the Citadel spray gun, just my regular airbrush to get in some of those red tones. And then we started applying some dry brushing to that to sort of bring back some of the whites. So that's where we are right now. We're still blending those in together, a little bit more blending on these guys. But as you can see, there's a lot of details in there. There's these faces that we worked in. This guy has a tentacle for an arm. He's got multiple tentacles over on this side. All these things jutting from his back. So I think he actually came out pretty well. There are projects in layering, which I enjoy layering techniques. So here's another one. See if I can move slow enough that you can actually get a good look at him. There's the focus. This one's got some other faces worked in there too. He's got a massive old spawn arm on there. Some other spawn bits. So these guys are a combination of just spawn bits, Tyranid bits, vampire counts bits, that head is from a vampire counts, and just all sorts of different stuff. And when I'm finally done with and satisfied with the layering, what I'm going to do is go back in and do some gloss effects on the red areas to create that sort of wet, slick look that you get with blood and gore, which I think will work really well. So he'll have an overall muted effect, but he'll have that sort of nice red, slick look to him, which I think will come out well. These guys are for the most part, you know, moving right along. I just got to do some coloring on some bone and some coloring on some of the metals, and that'll be done there. If you're just tuning into this channel, my name is Caleb, and I have a small company here in Raleigh, North Carolina called White Metal Games. We are miniature converters, painters, enthusiasts, and hobbyists, and we work for you to create custom models for your wargaming needs, anything from terrain to models, scenery, entire armies. We've done several full armies now. So please contact us at calebfilm@yahoo.com if you're interested in setting up a commission, or just, you know, contact us if you have any questions about anything you see on this channel, anything that you're interested in. Certainly if you have any projects you're interested in setting up. And we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Until that time, put your money's where your mouth is, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.